I was lying on a hospital bed, cold and weak, when I saw the wedding photos. The screen of my phone lit up with a message from a friend I hadn't heard from in months. No words, just 5 pictures. There he was. My Michael. Smiling wide, dressed in a white tuxedo. Holding hands with another woman in a wedding gown. Their foreheads touching. Their lips about to meet. Their joy blinding. And me? I had just finished my second dialysis session for the week. My arm was bruised from the needles. My head ached. My body had given so much for him. And now the man I gave a kidney to, the man I almost died for, had just walked down the aisle with someone else. I dropped my phone. The world blurred. How could he? How could someone who once said, "I can't breathe without you," now smile for photos with another woman, while I was barely holding on to life? The nurse stepped in asking if I was okay. I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. I had no one else to lean on. My parents were gone. My brother stopped talking to me after I chose Michael over family. And now, I had given away the one organ keeping me healthy, just so Michael could live. Now I was the one dying slowly, while he danced with someone else. But I wasn't going to die quietly. Not without showing him who I was. Not without making him pay. Let me take you back to when it all began. My name is Lauren Williams. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, the only daughter of 2 loving but very protective parents. My dad was a mechanic and my mom ran a small bakery that smelled like vanilla and warm cinnamon every morning. We didn't have much, but we had love. And that love taught me to give, to forgive, to believe in people, even when they didn't deserve it. I met Michael in college. He had this quiet sadness in his eyes and this crooked smile that made you wonder what he'd been through. He told me his parents left him young. That he was passed around between relatives who never wanted him. I fell for his broken parts. I wanted to be the person who never left. Our love was messy, beautiful, chaotic. But I believed in it. When I graduated with a degree in nursing, Michael still hadn't finished school. I got my first job and supported us both. I paid our rent. I packed his lunches. I listened to him cry at night. People warned me. Even my mom, before she died of a heart attack in our living room, whispered, "Don't bleed yourself dry for someone who won't even hand you a Band-Aid." I didn't listen. Because Michael loved me. Or so I thought. Then one night, everything changed. Michael came home from work, pale, dizzy, and shaking. At first I thought he had the flu, but it was worse. Much worse. Kidney failure. The doctors said he needed a transplant. Fast. But the waiting list could take years. I didn't even hesitate. I told them to test me. It turned out, I was a perfect match. Even the nurse said it was rare. Meant to be. Michael cried when I told him. Held my face in his hands and said, "You're my angel." We scheduled the surgery. My brother said I was stupid. He stopped speaking to me that day. I sold my car to help pay for some of Michael's post-op medications that weren't covered. I borrowed money from payday lenders to cover rent when I had to take weeks off work. I had dreams of walking down the aisle in a white dress, but instead, I was rolled into an operating room in a blue gown. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia hit was Michael's voice whispering, "Thank you. I'll never leave you." But now here I was. Alone. Hooked up to a machine 3 times a week. Tired. Sick. Watching him post honeymoon photos in Jamaica. He never even told me. Not a call. Not a message. Nothing. My mind raced. What was I going to do? Would I survive this? Would I ever get my life back? But more importantly, what would he do if he knew I wasn't the same soft girl anymore? Because something inside me had snapped. And revenge? Revenge was already knocking. And that knock was about to turn into a door being kicked down. The knock of revenge wasn't just inside my head anymore. It was real. I didn't even realize my hand was shaking until I dropped the photo frame of me and Michael that still sat by my bedside. It shattered into jagged pieces across the floor. Just like me. I sat there, breathing hard, staring at the broken glass. It felt poetic. The reflection of my face in the cracks was almost unrecognizable. I wasn't the same girl anymore, the one who believed in forever, the one who thought love was enough. Something had died in that operating room. And something else had been born. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to fight back. The first thing I did was open a brand new Instagram account. One he couldn't trace. I needed to know everything. Where he lived now. What his new wife did. What lies he told her. His name popped up easily. At Michael the survivor. Disgusting. His bio read. Kidney transplant survivor. Husband. Blessed beyond words. Husband. Blessed. No mention of me. No thanks. No acknowledgement. Only staged photos of his beach wedding, and a pinned reel where he held his new wife while fireworks burst behind them. I wanted to throw my phone. Instead, I studied her. Her name was Chloe. Blonde, tall, sparkling green eyes. And pregnant. In the caption of one photo, she held her stomach and wrote, "So grateful God gave me the strongest man on earth to raise this baby with. You're my miracle, Michael." Miracle? He was a thief. A liar. A traitor. But now, he was also a target. I started documenting everything. I created a private folder called Evidence. Every post. Every caption. Every address I could find linked to him. It turned out they were living just 20 minutes from me, in a newly leased condo in Round Rock, Texas. Same city where I had nearly bled to death for him. The betrayal made me nauseous. But my plan was just beginning. I wasn't going to storm into his house. I wasn't going to key his car or smash windows. No. That's too loud. Too easy to clean up. I wanted to destroy him the way he destroyed me. Slowly, silently, completely. The first thing I did was write a letter. To Chloe. But I didn't sign it. I just wrote. Did Michael tell you where he got his kidney? Ask him who bled for him. Ask him why she's still on dialysis. Ask him why he never told you about Lauren. No return address. No fingerprints. Just truth, wrapped in a shadow. I mailed it from a small town an hour away. Then I waited. For days, nothing. But on the sixth night, something shifted. At 2:14 a.m., Michael messaged me on WhatsApp, a platform he hadn't used in months. Michael, what the hell did you do? I stared at the screen. My heart raced. My hand hovered over the keyboard. Then another message. Michael, you had no right. No right? I gave him a kidney. I had every right. Before I could type, he deleted the messages. Then blocked me. Coward. I laughed for the first time in weeks. But that was just phase one. The next part required more than just letters. It required people. I called in a favor from a friend I hadn't spoken to since college, Jenna. She was always the rule breaker, the risk taker, the kind of girl who could get into places without ever being invited. And I knew she still worked with someone who handled private investigations on the side. I didn't tell her everything. Just enough. And $500 later, I had what I needed. Michael had lied about more than just me. He had debts. Big ones. Apparently, after the transplant, he took out several loans under different names. Some were tied to medical expenses. Others for gambling. And the worst part? One of those loans had my forged signature on it. He had used my identity. My social. While I was recovering, he'd used me again. This time to borrow $10,000 from a high-interest lender in Houston. I sat back, clutching the report Jenna handed me. He wasn't just a bad man. He was a criminal. And now? Now I had real power. My hands were still trembling when I got up from the coffee shop booth. The sun outside looked warmer than it had in weeks. But just as I stepped out into the light, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail. I played it. Lauren, it's Chloe. Please, if you're the person I think you are, I need to talk. I don't know what to believe anymore. Please. Call me. My heart stopped. Had he confessed? Had she found the truth? Was she just another pawn? Like me? I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe another woman wouldn't protect a monster if she knew the truth. But I also knew better now. I wasn't stepping into anything without a plan. Still, her voice trembled. She sounded scared, confused, and very, very pregnant. My thumb hovered over the call button. And that's when it happened. That's when I saw something I never expected. Something that would change everything. I turned the corner toward the parking lot and saw Jenna's car. The one I had just left, being smashed. Glass flying. Tires slashed. And standing over it was Michael, red-faced, breathing heavy, looking around like an animal backed into a corner. He had found out. And now it was war. For a split second I froze. Michael's body was hunched over Jenna's car, his fist driving down again and again onto the windshield like he was trying to kill it. Shards of glass flew everywhere, sparkling under the afternoon sun like some sick celebration. My heart punched against my ribs. People were staring. A woman pulled her child back. A man started filming with his phone. But no one got close. I ducked behind a truck, heart pounding so loud I could barely breathe. He didn't see me yet. What was he doing here? How did he even know about Jenna? I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man destroying a car in the Fairpoint Cafe parking lot on Westwood Avenue. Please hurry, he's dangerous. What's your name, ma'am? I hung up. I wasn't ready for them to know my name. Not yet. Not until the rest of the truth came out. I peeked again. Michael was pacing now, wild-eyed, talking to himself like he'd snapped completely. His hands were bleeding. His knuckles looked torn open. The windshield was shattered inwards. Tires flat. Side mirrors gone. He suddenly stopped, turned, and looked straight at me. Our eyes locked. I ducked too late. Lauren, he shouted. Footsteps. Heavy fast. I turned and ran. I don't know how my legs worked, but they did. I dashed behind the cafe, down the alley, into the side street where my car was parked. I could still hear him, his breathing, his boots slamming against the pavement. But then silence. I reached my car, yanked the door open, and slammed it shut just as someone banged on the window. Not Michael. A police officer. I jumped. Ma'am, are you okay? I nodded too fast. He's over there, by the cafe. He attacked that car. Backup was already arriving. Sirens howled in the distance. Another officer raced past with his hand on his holster. Michael was caught. Caught because of me. But as they dragged him away in cuffs, blood dripping from his fists, I saw it. That look in his eyes. Not fear. Not guilt. Rage. The kind of rage that doesn't die in jail. I stayed in my car for almost an hour. Shaking. Breathing through my shirt. Trying not to cry. Trying not to laugh. Because this was it. The first real blow. He was going down. Later that night, I got a text from Jenna. What the hell did you drag me into? I had to lie to the cops to keep your name out of it. Next time, tell me everything. I called her. I told her the truth. All of it. The transplant. The marriage. The debt. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, let's destroy him properly. We made a plan. Step 1. Report the identity theft. I went to the police station 2 days later, filed the complaint, and gave them the forged documents. It took 3 hours, but they opened an investigation. Step 2. Talk to Chloe. This one scared me. I didn't know if she hated me, if she was on his side, or if she was stuck like I was once. But when I called her, she answered on the first ring. Lauren. Her voice was small, like mine had once been. I got your message. A beat of silence. Then she burst into tears. I didn't know. I didn't know you existed. I didn't know anything. He told me his ex was crazy, that she moved away, that she was a nurse who vanished. I blinked hard. I'm not a nurse, I said. I know, she whispered. I looked everything up. I saw the medical history. I saw the receipts. I saw your name on the organ donor list. Oh my God, Lauren, you gave him your kidney? I felt my throat tighten. Yes. Silence again. Then she said the words I never expected. Can we meet? We agreed to meet at a public library. No drama. No confrontation. Just truth. She showed up in a loose sweater, her baby bump visible, her eyes red from crying. I sat across from her with a folder in my lap. Inside were printed screenshots, receipts, copies of documents. My proof. She didn't even need to look. She already believed me. I left him, she said quietly. After he got arrested. I took what I could carry and left. Where are you staying? My cousin's. In Cedar Park. I nodded. That's good. She reached into her bag and pulled out something unexpected, A journal. She slid it across the table. This was his. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were pages of notes. Money he borrowed. People he owed. Lists of passwords. And something else. Under a section titled, "If Lauren ever talks," he had listed. Discredit. Frame her. Threaten hospital. Use fake emails. I nearly dropped the book. He had a plan to destroy me. Chloe touched my hand. You need to take this to the police. All of it. I looked at her. This woman, once the enemy in my head, was now holding my hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. I didn't know. But I'll help now. And for the first time since my surgery, I felt like I wasn't alone. I wasn't healed. I wasn't whole. But I was armed. And I was ready. We stood to leave. But as I reached the door, my phone buzzed again. A blocked number. This time, it was a video. I hit play. Michael. In a jail cell. Looking straight into the camera. You think this is over, Lauren? You think you've won? I've got people on the outside. And trust me, you're next. My blood turned cold. And just like that, peace slipped through my fingers. For 3 nights, I didn't sleep. Michael's video kept replaying in my head. His voice. His face. That look in his eyes. Like he wasn't locked up at all. Like I was the one in a cage. I tried to ignore it. Tried to tell myself he was just bluffing. But something inside me said, don't relax. Not yet. I went to the police the next morning with the journal Chloe gave me. The officer I spoke to, Detective Harper, took one look at the pages and nodded like he'd been expecting something like this. We've had our eyes on him for a while, he said. Fraud, forgery, financial abuse. But this makes it personal. We'll move faster. I wanted to believe that. But I'd already learned one hard truth. The law moves slowly, especially when the victim is a woman, especially when it's just emotional abuse. Still, I handed it all over, his journal, the screenshots, everything. Then I did the hardest thing. I went back to the hospital. Back to the transplant wing. The nurse at the desk did a double take when she saw me. Lauren. I nodded, heart thudding. I'm not here for treatment. She looked relieved. Oh, thank God. You had us worried. I need to speak to the records department, I said. And someone from legal, if possible. She didn't ask why. Just handed me a visitor badge and walked me down the hall. It smelled the same, like antiseptic and soft soap and heartbreak. The same hallway where they wheeled me out in a wheelchair, holding Michael's hand with a smile on my face. Back then, I thought I was starting a new chapter. I had no idea I was bleeding out into the last paragraph of a love story that was never real. The hospital legal team agreed to meet me. I showed them proof that Michael had forged parts of my insurance information, used my name on fake billing forms, and committed identity fraud using my medical records. The room went quiet. One of the lawyers, a sharp-faced woman named Ms. Graves, leaned in. You're saying he used your kidney and then committed fraud in your name while you were recovering? I nodded. And now he's threatening me. From jail. She wrote something down. Then looked me in the eye. We will be filing a lawsuit against him, she said. If what you've shown us is true, he also put the hospital at legal risk. You're not alone in this. For the first time in a long time, I felt believed. But even as I left the hospital, my hands were still shaking. Because that message, "You're next," echoed in my ears like a curse. Later that night, Jenna called me. Her voice was tight. Nervous. I think I'm being followed, she said. I sat up straight. What? Where are you? Leaving work. I walked out and this black car just pulled away like it had been parked there too long. Then 10 minutes later, it passed me again. Same car. Same plates. My stomach turned to ice. Go straight to the police, I said. File a report. I'll do the same. Do you think it's him? He said he had people outside. Maybe he wasn't lying. She paused. Lauren, if anything happens to me. Don't say that. No, listen. If anything happens to me, take my laptop. It has copies of everything. All the fake documents. All the emails. I've been compiling it. I swallowed. Nothing's going to happen to you. I promise. But I couldn't promise that. Not really. The next morning, I got another text. A picture this time. My mailbox. Smashed open. Inside, a single envelope. No name. No return address. I stood there in my robe, hands trembling, neighbors walking their dogs like it was a normal morning, while my world spun again. I opened the envelope. Inside was a photo. Me and Michael. From years ago. On the hospital bed after the surgery. Me pale, tired, smiling. Him kissing my forehead. On the back of the photo, someone had written in block letters. You took something from him. Now he's taking everything back. I dropped it like it was on fire. I knew what this meant. Michael wasn't just angry. He wanted control. Even behind bars, he was trying to reach through steel bars and strangle me with fear. And maybe worst of all, it was working. I drove to the police again, filed another report. Showed them the picture. The text. The broken mailbox. Detective Harper looked worried now. We're going to request a protective order, he said. Against Michael and any known associates. But what about the unknown ones? That night, Chloe called me again. Her voice was shaking. Someone tried to break into my cousin's house. My heart stopped. What? They came through the back door. We heard the latch click. My cousin screamed and they ran off. I think they were after me. Call the cops. Right now. I did. But they didn't find anyone. I pressed a hand to my forehead. It was happening too fast. All of it. The revenge, the evidence, the lawsuit, it had triggered something in Michael. He wasn't trying to silence me anymore. He was trying to erase me. I knew I had to make a move. A big one. Something that would end this. That's when I decided to go to the media. I never thought I'd sit in front of a camera with tears in my eyes, about to tell the world that I sold my kidney for a man who later married someone else while I was still on dialysis. But there I was. A producer from a local news station had picked up my story after Jenna connected me with a friend in media. At first, I wasn't sure. Part of me still felt shame, like I had been foolish, like I was airing my wounds for sympathy. But the other part of me? The part that Michael tried to break? That part was on fire. I was done hiding. Let's do it, I told her. They brought me into the studio late at night, when fewer people were around. I wore a plain sweater. No makeup. I wanted the world to see the real me. The tired me. The me who survived. They started the camera. The journalist asked, "Tell us what happened." So I did. I told them everything. How we met. How we fell in love. How I watched Michael wither from kidney failure. How I sat with him through hospital visits. How I signed up, no hesitation, to be tested. And how, against all odds, I was a perfect match. I told them how I went under the knife for him. How I woke up, groggy and sore, and saw him smiling beside me. How just months later, he walked out of my life. Then I dropped the final truth like a bomb. And while I was still on dialysis, recovering from my only remaining kidney struggling to keep me alive, he married another woman. In secret. In Las Vegas. And never came back. The room went silent. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just let the camera feel the weight of it. The journalist leaned in. And now, I said, he's trying to destroy what's left of me. But I'm not afraid of him anymore. I want everyone to know his name. Michael Thompson. He used me. Lied to me. Stole from me. And I'm going to make sure he never does it to another woman again. They aired the segment 2 nights later. And it went viral. I didn't expect that. I thought maybe a few hundred people would watch it, maybe 1,000. But by morning it was everywhere. She gave her kidney to her fiancé. He gave his heart to someone else. He cheated, lied, and married another woman, while she was on dialysis. I woke up to thousands of comments. Messages. Emails. Women telling me they'd been used too. Betrayed. Broken. Men apologizing on behalf of men like him. Reporters reaching out. Lawyers offering help. I even got calls from advocacy groups, asking if I'd speak on behalf of donor abuse victims. Apparently, it was more common than people thought. And my story had blown it wide open. But not everyone was supportive. Some comments were brutal. She should have seen it coming. Clout chaser. Why would anyone give up a kidney for a man who doesn't have a ring on her finger? Those cut deep. But the worst was what came next. 3 days after the story aired, I got a letter. No stamp. No return address. Just slid under my door in the middle of the night. Inside, it was just one sentence. Typed, not written. You think the world can save you now? I dropped it. Then I heard the bang. A loud pop outside. I ran to the window, just in time to see the back of my car, in flames. Neighbors came running. Someone called 911. Fire trucks. Police. Smoke in the air. My car was totaled. Detective Harper arrived an hour later. He looked furious. This is escalating, he said. We're going to keep an officer near your building for the next week. And we're freezing Michael's jail visitation and phone access until further notice. But it didn't feel like enough. Jenna showed up with an overnight bag. You're not staying here, she said. We drove to her place across town. Somewhere quieter. Safer. For the next few days, I barely slept. I jumped at every sound. Every knock at the door. But I kept pushing. Because after the news broke, something else happened. Michael's new wife, Amanda, found me. She messaged me on Facebook. Her message said, I had no idea. I thought I was his first love. His only love. He told me you were his cousin. I almost choked. His cousin? We agreed to meet. At a coffee shop. In public. When I saw her, I couldn't believe it. She looked like me. Same height. Same hair. Same shy smile. I guess he had a type. I'm sorry, she said, tears in her eyes. I had no idea what he did to you. I nodded. You're not the first woman he lied to. But maybe you'll be the last. She hesitated. I still have some of his things. Notes. Phones. Accounts. Maybe there's something in them you can use. She handed me a small box. I didn't open it right away. I waited until I was back at Jenna's. In a locked room. When I finally looked inside, I froze. There were SIM cards, a burner phone, a USB stick, and a small, worn notebook. Inside, scribbled in messy handwriting, were notes, numbers, names, and a list. Targets. My name was at the top. Below it, Chloe, Jenna, Amanda. And next to my name was one word. Payback. I stared at that word for hours. Payback. What kind of man writes the names of women who loved him under a heading like targets? The moment I saw my name first on that list, I knew this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about control. Even behind bars, Michael still thought he had the power. But I had something now. Evidence. The burner phone. The notebook. The USB. I called Detective Harper the next morning. He came over immediately and spent almost 2 hours going through everything Amanda gave me. The USB contained a folder titled Insurance. Inside were hundreds of screenshots, emails, receipts, private messages, bank statements. It was like Michael had been keeping tabs on every woman he'd ever been with. Like we were all pieces in his game. Worse, some of the documents connected him to multiple fraudulent financial schemes, stolen identities, fake GoFundMe pages using stories about his sick wife, and even international money transfers under other people's names. And then, there was one photo. A blurry image. But it sent my heart into my throat. It was of me, lying unconscious in my hospital bed after the kidney surgery. Tubes in my nose. Arms pale. Eyes shut. The date on the photo was just 3 hours after my operation. Who took that picture? I never gave him permission. No one in my family took it. And Michael had already left the hospital by then. Harper leaned back. Lauren, this is bigger than anything we thought. He's not just a liar. He's a predator. And we have to ask, who else is involved? The list of names in the notebook suddenly felt heavier. Amanda. Jenna. Chloe. I asked Amanda if she recognized the name Chloe. She did. She was a nurse at the clinic where Michael used to get dialysis. I think he dated her. Briefly. Before me. That made my blood run cold. So he dated a nurse. Married Amanda. Lived off my kidney. And left me. Like a pattern. A cycle. I didn't want to believe it. But maybe I wasn't the first woman he destroyed. And I might not have been the last. But I was going to be the only one to stop him. We launched an official case with the FBI's cybercrime unit. Thanks to the fraudulent financial documents and impersonations, Detective Harper submitted everything. And while that part was underway, I got a call that knocked the breath out of me. My dialysis center. Lauren, we need to inform you that someone has been requesting your medical records using your old signature. Fortunately, we flagged it. I asked who requested them. There was a long pause. A man named Travis Reynolds. I didn't know any Travis Reynolds until I checked the fake bank statement on Michael's USB. That name was on a wire transfer. Michael was using aliases. He was still impersonating people, stealing information, and worse, trying to gain access to my private files. I felt sick. I collapsed on Jenna's couch and started crying uncontrollably. I felt violated all over again. First my body, then my trust. Now even my identity. I thought this was over. That once he married someone else, I was free. But Michael never wanted to let me go. He just wanted to destroy me from a distance. Until that night. At 2:27 a.m., my phone rang. It was a restricted number. I almost didn't answer. But I did. And what I heard still haunts me. A voice. Michael's voice. Low. Calm. Controlled. You should have died on that table, Lauren. You had one job. Be quiet and stay gone. But now? You've made this very, very difficult. I sat frozen. You're in prison, I whispered. You can't touch me. He laughed. You think bars stop people like me? Asked Jenna. The line went dead. I called Harper in a panic. He rushed over in under 30 minutes, even though it was the middle of the night. I was hysterical, shaking, trying to explain the call. He listened. Quietly. Then said the one sentence I never expected. Lauren, Michael was released on bail yesterday. House arrest. The judge didn't see him as a flight risk. I dropped the phone. He was out. He was free. And he knew where I was. That night I couldn't sleep. Neither could Jenna. We locked every door. Closed every window. But the real damage had already been done. The next morning, Jenna's car was gone. And inside my mailbox was a photo. Of her. Bound. Gagged. Crying. With one word on the back. Your move. My knees gave out when I saw that photo. Jenna, the one person who never left me, who held my hand through every treatment, every betrayal, was now his hostage. Michael was no longer hiding behind screens or threats. He was making his move. And he had taken the only family I had left. I collapsed on the porch. My breath couldn't find its way out. The photo shook in my hands. I flipped it over again. Her terrified face stared back at me. Your move. I wanted to scream. But I couldn't. I wanted to rip the sky open. But all I could do was shake. Detective Harper arrived in 10 minutes. My trembling hand held out the photo. He took one look at it and cursed under his breath. This changes everything. He made some calls. Put out an Amber Alert. Launched a statewide manhunt. But we both knew. Michael was smarter than this. He had planned this for months. Maybe even years. He didn't want money. He didn't even want freedom. He wanted revenge. And he wanted me to suffer. There was no ransom note. No address. Just a game. So I made my move. I went on live television. Standing in front of the news cameras, pale and shaking, I said his name. My name is Lauren Matthews. The man who held my hand through surgery, who I gave a kidney to, is now holding my sister hostage. He left me on dialysis. He left me with scars. But he won't break me. The press ate it up. The story went viral in under 3 hours. Woman who donated kidney to husband now in life or death game for her sister. But I didn't care about the headlines. I only cared about getting Jenna back. And then, just before midnight, an envelope slid under my front door. Inside were 3 things. A photo of Jenna, her lips swollen, a bruise across her forehead, a burner phone, and a note. One lie for one truth. One secret for one life. Meet me at the storage unit. Alone. No cops. No second chances. I should have called Harper. I should have let the FBI handle it. But he took Jenna. So I went alone. The storage unit was on the edge of the city, past the railway tracks. The air was thick. Silent. A storm was crawling in from the distance. I gripped the burner phone tight and walked in. Unit 14. That was the number on the back of the note. The lock was already open. I slid the metal door up. The light flickered. And there he was. Michael. Standing like a ghost. His beard grown, eyes wild, but his voice, still that smooth, manipulative calm. Lauren, he smiled. You always were the brave one. My hands balled into fists. Where is she? He laughed. She's safe. For now. I stepped forward, heart pounding. What do you want, Michael? He tilted his head. A favor. Just like the one you gave me all those years ago. When you gave me your kidney. That was love, I spit. What you're doing now is evil. He leaned in. Love is evil, Lauren. You just didn't see it until it chewed you up and left you bleeding. He tossed me a flash drive. Take this to the DA. Tell them you found it. It contains all my exoneration evidence. Fake texts. Doctored receipts. Alibis. I blinked. You want me to help you get away with everything? He smiled wider. You do that, and Jenna lives. I didn't answer. I just stared at him. You don't help me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. She dies in real time. Want to see? He pressed play. Jenna. In a chair. Gagged. Struggling. Crying. Then he paused it. I could barely speak. You're sick. He stepped closer, eyes dark now. No, Lauren. You're the one who started this. You went to the police. You opened your mouth. And now you're going to shut it again, if you care about her life. I walked out of that unit with shaking legs, the flash drive burning a hole in my hand. Back home, I sat in the dark. That flash drive was my decision. Protect Jenna or let a monster rot. Then my real phone rang. Harper. We found a lead. I froze. What? He sounded excited. Jenna's car was seen near the bridge. And we got footage of a man, not Michael, dragging someone from the trunk. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean not Michael? He's working with someone, Harper said. We think it's Travis Reynolds, the alias he used. Turns out it's a real person. Someone he met in prison. I dropped the burner phone. Michael wasn't working alone. Which meant Jenna might already be moved. Or worse. But before I could warn Harper or tell him about the flash drive, my front door exploded. Splinters flew everywhere. A masked man burst in. And before I could even scream, a sharp pain slammed into the side of my head. And everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was the flickering of a single, buzzing light bulb overhead. The air was damp. Musty. Concrete walls. No windows. Just a single steel door bolted from the outside. I tried to move. My wrists were tied to the armrests of a rusted chair. My ankles strapped down. My head throbbed where the masked man had hit me. Panic rushed in like a flood. Jenna. The flash drive. Michael. Where was I? Then I heard it, a faint, shallow breathing across the room. I turned my head painfully. And there she was. Jenna. Gagged. Duct tape across her wrists and legs. Her eyes were swollen but alive. She saw me, and started crying. I cried too. Shoo, I whispered, voice cracking. I'm here, Jenna. I'm here. The door creaked open. Michael walked in. Alone. Wearing a clean white shirt, sleeves rolled. A twisted smile on his face. Welcome home, he said. I wanted to lunge at him, tear him apart. But I was bound. Why? I breathed. Why are you doing this? He leaned against the wall and stared at us like a king addressing peasants. Because this is what love looks like when it's shattered, he said. Then he pulled up a chair, sat in front of me, and dropped a manila folder in my lap. You think you know betrayal? He whispered. You don't even know the half of it. I looked down. Inside the folder were photos. Dozens. Old photos of me, laughing at college parties, holding hands with old friends, even sleeping. Some were recent. Very recent. My stomach turned. You were stalking me? He nodded slowly. From the moment I left the hospital. From the moment you turned on me. I didn't turn on you. You left me. You used me. You married someone else while I was fighting to survive on one kidney. Michael's face twitched. then twisted with rage. I married her because you made me weak, he shouted. You made me owe you something. And I don't owe anyone. I could barely process what I was hearing. You could have just disappeared, I said through tears. But you didn't. You came back for blood. He stepped closer. No, he whispered. I came back to finish the story. He turned to Jenna, pulled out a small pocket knife, and sliced her gag free. She gasped, trembling. You okay? I called out. She nodded weakly, eyes on Michael. He walked back toward me. Calm again. I want you to record a video, he said. A confession. What confession? That you lied. That I never forced you. That I never cheated. That all of this was part of your obsession. Your fantasy of a perfect marriage. I blinked at him. You want me to confess to something you did? I want my life back, he said. And this is how I get it. Your confession buys Jenna's freedom. I spit at his feet. You'll never get that video. He smiled, wiped his shoe with a handkerchief, and turned to leave. Then he paused at the door. Tick-tock, Lauren. Every hour you refuse, I take a piece of her. He slammed the door shut and locked it. The silence afterward was unbearable. Jenna looked at me, voice shaking. Lauren, I'm scared. I know, I whispered. But I'm not letting him win. I scanned the room, the camera in the corner, a table of tools, a drain in the floor. It wasn't just a holding cell. It was a torture chamber. We had to escape. I didn't have a plan, but I had a secret. What Michael didn't know was that I had already made a copy of that flash drive before I left. And the copy was no longer in my house. It was with someone else. Someone he had forgotten existed. My old roommate, Emily, who owed me her life after I helped her during her overdose 6 years ago. Before I left for the storage unit, I had mailed the flash drive to her, with one simple note. If anything happens to me, give this to Detective Harper. And if Harper got that flash drive, it would be his move next. But hours passed. The light never turned off. Our mouths dried. Our muscles cramped. Jenna began to cry quietly. Then suddenly, the door clicked, opened, and Michael stood there, holding a bucket of water, and something else, something wrapped in black cloth. He stepped inside slowly, and dropped the cloth. It fell open. Inside was a gun. Michael placed the gun on the table, between us, like a final move in a game he was sure he had already won. I'm tired, he said coldly. Let's end this, Lauren. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might explode. My wrists were raw from the ropes. Jenna's breathing had turned to quiet sobs again. Michael poured water into a cup, set it on the floor between us, and sat down. I've spent months thinking of how this should end, he said. A story this twisted deserves a poetic finale, don't you think? He slid the gun closer to me. One bullet. One shot. You shoot, Jenna. I let you live. I stared at him in disbelief. You're insane, I whispered. No, he said, leaning in. I'm free. You're the one still chained to the past. I shook my head. You're sick. He laughed bitterly. You gave me your kidney. I gave you nothing. Not even honesty. And still you love me. I snapped. No, I screamed. I don't love you. I pity you. His eyes twitched. For a second, he looked like a child caught in a lie. That broke something in him. He lunged forward, grabbing Jenna by the hair. Last chance, he shouted. Suddenly, bang. The door exploded off its hinges. Flashbangs rolled in. The room lit up in a strobe of fire and sound. Michael dropped Jenna. The gun clattered to the floor. Through the smoke, I heard it. LAPD. Drop your weapon. It was Detective Harper. Michael grabbed the gun and fired. Once. Missed. Another shot rang out. Michael dropped to his knees, holding his shoulder, screaming. Blood soaked through his white shirt. Get on the ground, the officers shouted. It was over. Within seconds, Jenna and I were untied and pulled out by paramedics. My ears rang. My head spun. But I was alive. Jenna was alive. And Michael was handcuffed, screaming like a madman, dragged out on a stretcher. He looked straight at me as they pulled him past. This isn't over, Lauren, he hissed. You think prison will stop me? I'll find a way. I always do. I didn't say a word, but I knew it was over. Because Harper came up beside me, holding the original flash drive. We got everything, he said. The money trail, the fake marriage, the hospital manipulation, even the hired man who brought you to that basement. Michael's going away for life. I nodded. And the second woman? Was already cooperating. Turns out she was his next victim. She thought he was a wealthy investor who'd lost his wife in a car crash. You saved her. I smiled weakly. Days later, in court, I sat with Jenna as we watched Michael receive a life sentence, without parole. The courtroom was packed. The press called it the organ donor revenge trial. I became a symbol, not just of betrayal, but survival. Even as I sat there with one kidney and a lifetime of physical therapy ahead of me, I was free. After court, I walked outside into the sunlight. A journalist asked, "Lauren, if you could go back, would you still donate your kidney?" I thought about it for a second. Then I said, yes. Why? Because what I gave came from love. What he did came from emptiness. I lost a kidney, but I never lost who I am. He lost everything. The world watched me walk away. Not as a victim, but as a survivor.